We're a dedicated Hawaiian monk seal hospital. We have trained veterinarians and a whole veterinarian cadre and staff there, which consists of my boss, Deb, and she's a vet tech. Our veterinarian is actually off island. Both of them are currently on the Oscar SETI going out to the Northwest Hawaiian Islands to actually drop off 4 patients that we had in our care for the last 8 months or 9 months or so. So Deb is my boss, then there's myself, and then we just hired on a education specialist to our staff. So we're kind of a tiny group doing big things, I would like to say. So in 2012 is when we broke ground and construction. We are, everybody's here on Nailha property. We're in between the old WAM school building and the shrimp farm. And you follow that, I call it the second left driveway, and just take it to the ocean and you'll find us off on the right-hand side. Some people call our structure the burrito. And when we light it up at night to feed our patients, you can see it from like all over the place out here, especially like Palisades. I mean, it's pretty bright. But we opened our facility in 2014. We ushered in 2 monk seals from the Northwestern. To date, we've had 19 patients in our care already. So in a very short time of opening, we've already had patients. With that, there's 1,400 monk seals in the population right now from the whole archipelago of Hawaii. Our 19, which consists, when you do this math on it, we've already had 1% of the population of monk seals in our hospital already, which is kind of staggering. So, the main purpose for building our hospital was to help pups. I'll kind of get a little bit deeper in kind of the natural history of them. But basically, mom gives birth, pup is born about 25 pounds after mom finished nursing. Hopefully the pup is about 200 pounds. And then mom leaves, doesn't teach it anything. So it's up to the pup to figure out what life is. So pups don't pick it up right away. And so they keep losing weight, and then they become malnutrition and then dehydrated. All our patients have been malnutrition patients that have come in, and they've all come from the Northwest Hawaiian Islands. We are the only state hospital for monk seals, so luckily for us, knock on wood, all the monk seals that are on the main Hawaiian Islands have kind of stayed out of trouble, pretty much. But we are geared up, and we could receive adult monk seals or even pups from the main Hawaiian Islands. So what do I do? I am the response coordinator here on the island of Hawaii, and my job is outside of the hospital. So I get to take care of all the wild monk seals on this island. And so part of my job is to keep people safe. Well, not to let this happen, or not to let that happen. Definitely not let that happen, and we don't want that to happen. So a lot of my job is educating people that monk seals are wild animals. I don't know if you guys have seen Facebook lately or have seen TV about the sea lion that grabbed the little girl and took her in the water. That's something that I don't want to happen here, right? This was also something I don't want to happen. This was taken last week. Most of my job is really protecting people. And we didn't get a call about this monk seal until later on, after this incident happened. And so I'm really kind of relying on the public to kind of let us know. This is right here. What's that?
That's right here.
Yeah.
That's right here.
Yeah,
No, it's right here.
No. Oh, no. This is at Ma'ula's in... Yes, Hi. Ula.
Oh,
Yes, we get
that was one of ours.
Yeah.
Right.
So a lot of my job is to protect people. But then secondary is kind of ID monk seals, and then check out the overall health of how they're doing. All monk seals have a small flipper tag. They have a small flipper tag on both flippers, and it's on their rear flippers. But when we do get a call that a monk seal is on a beach, then we're able to go out and kind of put up some rope and still allow people to enjoy the beach. That's the number one thing, is to still work or live in coexistence together, right? Give the monk seal enough room so it can rest, and then yet still keep people safe, right? Keeping this young child safe is huge, right? And my job, even though I'm the coordinator, and just recently we had a beach, we had the annual or biannual Hawaiian monk seal count, and that was last Saturday, and we covered 70% of our beaches here on this island. On this island, there's 143 different beaches or coastal access points on this island. So 41 volunteers braved the hot sun and traversed the island, and we were able to find 3 monk seals. But I really couldn't do any of my work protecting people without these volunteers. And so, I couldn't do it without them. Okay, so Hawaiian monk seals. There are 3 different species of monk seals. The Mediterranean monk seal, and there's less than 100 of them, and they're all kind of in the Greece area. The Caribbean monk seal is now extinct, and it's been extinct since 1959. And then the Hawaiian monk seal. Our numbers got as low as 1,100 to 1,000, but they're kind of on the rise. So we're about 1,400, which is a good thing. Monk seals are on the whole archipelago of Hawaii. I'll show you the next slide. With the bulk of them in the northwest. I put this satellite tag whenever we have a couple programs that to track monk seals. Monk seals, we can't put a tracker on them like we do with some of the turtles. Monk seals molt every year, and if you can ID a monk seal and kind of know its patterns of its range patterns where it's traveling back and forth, you can kind of guarantee when they're going to molt in the next calendar year, right? But if you just found a monk seal and said, like, oh, I'm going to put a satellite tag on that, you could put a satellite tag and in 3 weeks later it's going to molt and that satellite tag comes off. So then you're not collecting really good data. But here we were able to, it was captured on Kauai, and they put the satellite tag on, and you can see how far the monk seal travels all the way out in the open ocean. And it's kind of interesting, that they know that these sea mounts are out there and that they can forage that far out. And this monk seal never came close to our island, but never came ashore.
What's the duration of that track?
On this one, I want to say it was almost a year, like 9 months. I'll look that back up. So again, there's 1,400 monk seals on the whole archipelago, 300 in the main Hawaiian Islands. The bulk of them are in the northwest. Niihau has roughly about 100 or so monk seals. And then the population kind of decreases. And I'll talk about our monk seals on our island. Here is the graph where you kind of see the drastic decrease and then kind of a slow increase. Kind of with the help of our taking care of the pups and taking them back into the population, that kind of kept some survival rates up. And then also monk seals in the main Hawaiian Islands actually do better pupping wise. So the few monk seals that are in the main Hawaiian Islands are kind of really adding more to the population, which is great. Some of the threats, as you can see, entanglement. But I've, it's fishing gear, right? But I've seen a monk seal entangled in a swimming goggles. So, it's interesting what they can get entangled in, right? Or what's floating out there. Fish hooks are part of the entanglement. Close interaction. Global, I put this one up here. I'm not going to talk about global warming, but the atolls are naturally shrinking, right? So pups born on the atolls are not only competing against other adult monk seals, but which is kind of interesting, and I couldn't find a slide for it, but the alua fish and the white-tip reef shark have learned the size differentiation between a pup and an adult. And so they've also learned that the pup is slower and is still trying to figure out what life is all about and what is good to eat and what's not good to eat. So as the pup is flipping over rocks or sticking its nose into the sand and trying to chase out eels, or sticking its nose in lava rocks to pop out octopus, the alua and the white-tip follow. And so as the monk seal's meal is coming out of the rocks, they will grab and outcompete the monk seal. So now you have a pup who is a little slow, right? And a little hungry, or getting hungrier, right? It's kind of a double whammy, right? It has to keep moving, right? Burning up more calories. So that's, again, how we that malnutrition state is why they're coming in, especially for the pups. Male aggression is a problem. Males fighting over females. This is a female that is on island right now. Her scar right there is from, it was really, oh my gosh, almost a year ago, really bad. It was kind of her whole back fur was gone. And that was due to male aggression. So the males get excited, and then the females get caught up in that frenzy. There are some diseases that can transfer over from monk seals, from other animals, I'll say it that way. Toxoplasmosis, starting in 2001, we started keeping track of monk seals dying from toxoplasmosis. Since 2001, we've had 8 monk seals die, and last year we had 2 female monk seals die of toxoplasmosis. And so toxoplasmosis is shed from cats, right? And then it gets washed into the water column, and the monk seals are kind of ingesting that in. What is interesting is that we haven't had any monk seals perish on this island from toxoplasmosis, but we've had a spinner dolphin die of toxoplasmosis. And so just recently, there's been awarded a big grant with NOAA, and they're actually going back to all their samples and testing the cetaceans to see if they have kind of the tigers or for toxoplasmosis and kind of.
What is the toxoplasmosis?
Toxoplasmosis is it's a bacteria.
When you say from cats, is it the feces, or is it their saliva? Is it their body?
It's
It's in their feces.
in their feces,
That's transferred.
but it's an interesting life cycle. So it's an adult form in the gut, and to complete its life cycle, it needs to be pooped out, and so then rats will eat it, right? And so the interesting thing about that is that it knows that the rat is eating it, and so it will affect its brain. So it'll make the rat or the mouse want to go searching for, or not afraid of, cats, and then the cat will eat that mouse or rat, and then start that whole life cycle again. That's the most simplistic way to.
When you say it hit a spinner dolphin in these waters here or in the other islands?
On this island, yeah, we've had
So,
one spinner dolphin die.
With all the longitudes we have and the wildcats that are out in the wild and the rats, those things may have come down with the rains we have from the mountain. At the 3,000 feet elevation, there's a rain melt area, and we have fresh water gushing out of these longitudes into the ocean. So a possibility of where that may have come and affected the spinner dolphin.
It also affects humans too. It's a parasite.
It is a parasite, yeah. So females, when they're pregnant and they have cats at home, they're not supposed to be cleaning the litter box.
So
That's
all of these areas that we know of that fresh water is coming out into the ocean, I mean, I think it was the Army Corps civil engineer that took a reading of the coastline, and our entire coastline from Honolulu to Kalai is the streamline of fresh water coming out from the river. So was a spinner dolphin found at by Kaavaloa, by that day. Do you know what area the spinner dolphin is from?
I don't.
Because it was Kaavaloa, the freshwater gushes out over there. If it was along the drive, we have an outfall there from the sewage treatment.
I want to say it was like South Point, but I'm not. I'll have to look that up. Leave me your email or phone number, and I'll research that. Yeah, no, that'd be interesting. I never thought about it that way.
Where's the most cats?
But right now they're out in the wild.
Yeah.
You had it from the dryland forest from Puanahulu to Kona. And that has been a problem with the forestry division is the feral cats.
They also affect our native bird populations as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we're talking about monk seals. Yeah. So these are kind of the threats to monk seals. So why do monk seals haul out? And this is kind of my job where I work. Monk seals have a nocturnal lifestyle, and so they are foraging, socializing, and traveling during the night. Our monk seals that's the typical monk seal kind of pattern, and then they haul out and sleep during the daytime, and they typically haul out right around 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, and then will kind of stay on the beach anywhere from 5:30 to 7 o'clock, and then they usually haul back into the water and then start their routine again. Our monk seals are kind of interesting breed because there's nothing normal about our monk seals. They will haul out and then they'll get back in the water and swim off somewhere else and haul out again. So they typically don't do anything that is normal, which makes my job more interesting, which I love. Monk seals will also sleep underwater. So if they can find a crevice, they will. Maui is known for all their great diving and into the big lava tubes. A lot of divers. There's lots. You go to YouTube, you can find lots of videos of divers, finding monk seals sleeping underwater.
How do seals forage at night? Do they have sonar, or what do they use to find food?
Good question. They're using their vibrissa. They have a kind of I call it like a sun. Their lenses in their eyes are huge, bigger, so they can bring in that more of that moonlight, natural light. They also, they do forage in that early evening, early morning time too. What happens after 9 p.m., basically we really don't have a lot of information, because that's when most of the observers are kind of shutting down camp and trying to get back to somewhere safe. But, so if you're looking to do any kind of research on monk seal behavior or physiology, there's so much that we don't know compared to like a California sea lion or a harbor seal. So they do, they haul out daily, and if they're not hauling out, then they're sleeping underwater, and that's kind of a daily occurrence, right?
So,
Yes.
on that sleeping underwater, that might explain that one satellite track that you had where the seal left, I don't know, Oahu and came down, some of those Johnson Atoll or whatever in the back. But that's an awfully long time to be away from land.
Mm-hmm.
The seal would be sleeping underwater almost every night.
Right.
Would you consider that very unusual?
No.
That it was away from land for so long?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I just got done talking, there's 1,400 monk seals in the whole archipelago, 300 in our main Hawaiian Islands. We did the annual seal count was this Saturday. There was only, oh my gosh, less than 40 monk seals sighted throughout the whole main Hawaiian Islands on seal count day. So the whole, every island, somebody was on, hopefully all the other islands had somebody on a beach between the hours of 9 and 12 looking for monk seals, right? And like Molokai had maybe 23, and I think our numbers were really kind of strikingly low, right? And that's what we're kind of theorizing, that they are going offshore and feeding and eating or searching, or that they are kind of leading that pelagic life.
How deep can they go? I mean, to find a crevice like this, it's probably 20 feet of water or something.
Yeah. So anywhere from 1,200 to 1,400 feet deep.
You
Kind of
can't
their
go that
diving.
deep.
Yeah.
Okay. That stretch, the return stretch was over very
Yeah. But they're hitting those.
They're hitting seamounts.
They're hitting seamounts.
Yeah, but that return track was
Right.
across a basin.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
were no seamounts there. Anyway.
Yeah. Last year we did satellite tags. So last year, Kilo was one of our patients, and she had a satellite tag, and she was out to sea for 21 days before she retouched land. And we were everybody was really freaking out about that. But
Why would you be concerned for them in the period in the
well, for Kilo, she was only 5 months when she came to the hospital, and then she stayed with us for an additional 4 months. So now she's 9 months, and then so she really hadn't had that. So the Northwest Hawaiian Islands, the females pop kind of generally in the same time. So now you have the pups they don't rookery up, but they're still socializing a little bit more because it's a smaller monk seal versus the bigger adult monk seal. So they do see some interaction in that, and so they do,
But aren't the juveniles more feisty and playful and that's why they learn through their own experiences, because they are that way.
Right.
And so they're speeders and they're just going for life.
Right.
And it's full of life.
And that's totally what Kilo did. But when so the satellite tag was, the information was going to Oahu, and the person on the ground had a satellite phone and had limited access to email. So as the satellite tag is binging in Oahu going, and they're like, hey, it's been a week and this monk seal that you just released went out to open water. And the observer, was behind the computer ready to hit send, like, oh yeah, we saw Kilo with another monk seal swimming along. And, so now 2 weeks before we got that email, and then it all made sense that she was actually following an adult who knew where all these seagulls. So now she knows the path, but they both were out there for 21 days. Yeah. Yeah.
When they're sleeping underwater, what kind of duration do they sleep underwater?
It's anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes, depending on how they hit that dive mode sleep.
It's once a day or more often?
What's that?
20, 30 minutes a day?
How much time to sleep?
Oh, how much time do they sleep? Oh my gosh. RA-20 hauled out this morning around, I got the first call, so she was already out on the beach about 7 a.m. and she's still there on the beach now. So I don't think she's going to go in for another hour.
So one of the seals sleeping underwater, though, it'll sleep for 20 minutes or a half hour, come up, take a breath, then go back down, right?
Yeah. So they'll just continuously bob up and down. So if you ever go out here to the point, to the Makako Point, I did do that right because I was doing anyways, or what they call the Garden Hill Cove, that little area. Sometimes, like when I walk out there, because it's all just sheer cliff, and as I'm looking out there, I imagine that I'm seeing these little heads pop up and down, breathing and going down. Then I'm watching, I'm like, oh wait, I don't have 30 minutes to stand here. But unless you have a beautiful girlfriend and you're going to share a romantic sunset and look for monk seals, I guess the only way you can get away with it. So molting, we talked about molting. This is monk seals, so they do haul out daily. They haul out in tide pools, underwater. They're sleeping for long durations, periods of time. So algae naturally grows on them. And you can see this nice, thick green algae forming on her. And so we think molting happens so that they look presentable when they're looking for a mate, and also just to get rid of that algae, right? But molting, it is a catastrophic molt. So it literally just pops off. The new fur underneath is pushing out the old fur, and it's in patches. And again, typical monk seals, they'll stay on the beach anywhere from 7 days to 14 days, and then they typically don't eat. It's kind of a fasting mode, so they're really grumpy. And then after they're done molting, then they go in the water. That's typical. But our monk seals, again, they do what they want to do. This young girl right here, it's RW34. She's a resident monk seal. She didn't care. She went in the water every day, anywhere from 15 minutes to 2 hours. And then she would haul right back at the same spot. This guy right here is B18. He would molt he molted last year in KA, and he literally was the whole stretch of KA. He was somewhere, and he would go in the water. He would haul out in the morning, and then he would leave, and he'd be about 15, 20 minutes, and then he'd haul out somewhere else. So all of our volunteers were running with the signs all over, just trying to find out where he was at. Yeah. So again, we don't know if our monk seals are eating at the time, but RW34, where she was at, it was a really sandy beach, and so you would, every once in a while when you would follow her, you could see her hind flippers up in the air, and so we were thinking that she was just kind of rubbing her head along the sand. And RB18, a lot of the volunteers would say he was loofahing himself along the rocks, the lava rocks. The longest duration that monk seals will stay on land is when they give birth, and it's the females that give birth. And again, typically monk seals, the females will stay on land. They won't enter the water. If they do, they go down to the shallows just to kind of thermoregulate, but typically stay on land and nurse. Pups are born about 25 pounds, and they're all in the black coat. After about 6 weeks of nursing, they're about 200 to 250 pounds, and they kind of shed that black coat, and then they become really silvery at that time. Once they're done, once mother is done nursing, she just leaves. She never comes back, and it's up to the pup to kind of figure out again how to forage, what to forage for. The pup will at this time generally go in the water and come back to the kind of its natal beach. Female monk seals will give birth typically at their natal birth beach or somewhere close to their beach. This is RW34. She's her AKA, her nickname is Waimanu, and it was given to her because she was born in the Waimanu Valley. And where she likes to give birth is at Keokea Beach Park. So kind of close by. So again, 1,411 in the Northwest, 3 in our island. On our island, we have 2 resident monk seals. This is RW34 right there. She was born on this island, and her older brother. We typically have anywhere from 2 to 3 transient monk seals that visit and stay for anywhere from 2 weeks to right now 6 months. It's the longest. So these are our monk seals here. RW34 was born in 2008 from Lighthouse Mom. She has given birth 3 times. Her first pup, she was successful at weaning, and so she went for the whole 6 weeks. 6 months after the pup was born, it actually swallowed a fish hook and died. And so that was the last successful wean pup that we've had on our island. 2015 and 2016, she gave birth, and both of those, the first one in 2015, I talked about that male aggression. So it seems that the males will seek out the females when they've just given birth, and we kind of theorize that the females are maybe a little tired, right? So they don't have enough energy to defend themselves, and then that's when the boys can take advantage of them. And so when the boys come in, they're either rolling over, and hurting the females, or in this case, rolling over and hurting the pups. And so in 2015, Keokea was like the monk seal epicenter. We had anywhere from 3 to 4 monk seals at a time at that beach park, which is very small, right? Tiny. But it was anywhere from 2 to 3, or 1 to 2 males coming to kind of the sire of the female. So we believe that's what happened to the pup that during the night. She was probably defending. Either a male rolled over or she rolled over on her pup.
Where is Lighthouse Mom today, or 15? She's not one of the residents of Hawaii Island. But it seems like she comes here to give birth.
She hasn't been. March of 2013 was the last time she was recorded sighted on island, and that was after she molted. And she molted. It took her like 4 weeks to molt. And in 2013, her age would have put her about at 31 years of age. So monk seal lifespan is 25 to 30 years of age. when they get older, it takes them longer to molt. Our RW34 does, for the last 2 years, has taken a while to molt, like 3 weeks, but we theorize that it's because her hormones are still a little kind of off balance from not nursing a full cycle out, and so when she molts, you can kind of see it almost looks like a struggle. You see these little black little spotchiness, and you're like, oh, she's molting, yay! And then, but it just keeps being splotchy, and then it never erupts, and then 7 days will go by, and you're like, well, is she molting or is she just hanging out? And then all of a sudden you come back the next day, and then you see shards of the fur coming off, and then she kind of rapidly goes through that. So. Her older brother is RI05, and he's a Kahala boy, so he's up north most of the time. The last I've ever seen him south was probably the Manalani resort was the last, and that was like November, October time frame. He has kind of an interesting pattern. So right now the females are either about to pop or finishing up popping on Maui, and so he's been kind of sighted over there lately. So he swims back and forth through that channel. Some sad news this year. If I gave this lecture 6 months ago, I would have said we had 3 residents, but we had a monk seal pass away this year.
Was it from natural causes?
It was an accident. No, it wasn't from natural causes. It was drowning. And so he was one of the fish pens. They were tearing it down, and a shark got into it. And so they took off a section of it so the shark could swim out. And the monk seal kind of went up into it and couldn't figure out how to get out, so that's how it drowned. So purely an accident.
When you say fish pens here in this island, like the one right off of Keroa?
Yeah. So they're working on better protocols, better procedures on that. So, yeah. So this is our lovely girl. Yes.
2 questions. How long is gestation?
9 months.
And then, how do you determine the names? Is it, RW, what does that stand for, and the numbers, and does male, female mean even or odd, or?
No, yeah, I wish it was that easy. Great question. So most of the research starting in the 60s was the Hawaiian monk seals research started in the Northwest Hawaiian Island. And so all the Northwest Hawaiian Islands have a different color combination of flipper tags. And so you have purple and gray and blue and light blue versus dark blue and green and yellow. And then out there in the Northwest Hawaiian Islands, everything plastic fades, so they all look like white or tan or silver. Yeah, and so so they all have different colored flipper tags in the Northwest Hawaiian Islands. So the R here stands for the color of the flipper tag. So on the main Hawaiian Islands, they made it simple for us. They made them all orange or red. So to me, they look orange, but the scientists say it's red. Or the manufacturer says it's red, right? The R stands for red, and so that lets us know that it's a main Hawaiian island. So in theory, you could have a BW34, and that would be B is for blue, which is for Lazansky Island. Yeah. The W is interesting, and there's no rhyme and reason. Well, there must be a rhyme and a reason, but I haven't figured it out. The W stands for the year that the monk seal was born. And so every monk seal that was born in 2008 starts with a W. So, so there is a RW00 out there, and there is a RW21 out there. But our girl is RW34. The 34, it's just whatever. So the monk seals get 2 flipper tags. The left flipper gets the even number, and the right flipper gets the odd number. So she's actually RW34, RW35. So if you look on her flipper tag.
Should I ask what the purpose of that is? The same seal, 2 numbers. It's like bacteria.
Well, actually, our boys, both our B18 and our IO5, they both are missing their flipper tags. So on Lava Rock, it's pretty rough on those plastic tags, so they do get lost. And so that was kind of the fail-safe. If one falls off, you have the other one.
Well, why 2 different numbers?
What's that?
Why would you have 2 different numbers rather than the same number on both?
That's a good question. That's that part of that rhyme for a reason. Part of it. But it's smart that they did. Now like the even number is going to be the left flipper and the right. So that's that makes sense. But yeah, I don't.
I think I can figure that out better than the monk seal.
Yeah.
You said there was only 2 residents on this island?
Uh-huh.
Why is that?
They haven't found the others. No, seriously.
It's
Seriously, because from Whitefield Valley on to Hilo, all you have is puddle. You have the coastline and high cliffs. And there's monk seals over there because when I was little, my uncle used to climb the cliffs to go fishing along the Humboldt coast. And there would be monk seals there. Yeah. So it's because they haven't found the others.
Yeah. That's totally.
And that's almost 3/4 of this island, the Humboldt coast.
Yeah.
And I
I've never
agree
seen
with that,
before on
because
the
if you
beach.
flip back one
No,
slide,
because the currents doesn't allow it.
that left
Yeah.
photo is an indication of why we think there's only 2 or 3 on this island. You're walking along the Lava Rock beach, etc. You don't know that that's a seal.
Yeah.
So we probably have missed more than we have counted.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but
We would not have.
And you don't have access from Ka'alu'alu is past South Point. From Ka'alu'alu to the volcano is cliffside.
yeah.
And there's a lot of pockets of beaches, and there's no access there unless you go by rubber raft or small boat.
Or drones.
Oh, drones. Stop drones.
So that's perfect. And then of the 143 beaches that we're talking about, the 40 that didn't get covered were those beaches. Yeah, were all those beaches because it's hard to get to.
Very good.
Yeah.
Who's up to climbing?
Yeah. And there's tons of stories that I hear of people hiking and they actually walk on them and didn't know, or climbed over one because they looked like the rock or looked like a. So this is again. Well, I'll go back to her. This is so. I'm going to say it right now. RW34, she is the largest monk seal in the state. I think she's roughly tipping about 700 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, she is a beauty. But she has 2 years of birth weight that she really hasn't shed yet or really worked off yet. So she is a big girl. She's easy to identify. Frank and Vicky got to meet her on Saturday during the seal count. So yeah.
Was she at Cool Bay for a while?
No, that's going to be RA20. I'll show you. Our IO5, again, the other resident male monk seal, kind of going back and forth. But this, again, all the photos that I really get of him are from the Kahala Coast area.
What year is I?
2004. Yeah, when he was born, 2004. So, this is R8HE. She's been becoming my favorite monksil to go follow because she's so easy to identify. But she has this beautiful kind of sad face looking here. But she was here last year, kind of around March time, and then till about May, June, and then she bugged out and went to Oahu. But the way we used to identify her is by these two little cookie cutter scars on her hind right side. When she went to Oahu, she met up with some, again, male aggression. She met up with some bad boys, and they really did a number on her back here. And so they took off all of her fur. They were able to, the veterinarian staff there, or our veterinarian, was able to find her and with a pulse syringe, give her a little bit of antibiotics, and she really recovered really fast. And then she's been with us since December of 2016, and this is her now. So this is her before she molted, so there was still some green on her, and then this is her currently, and her scar is looking a lot better. And it seems like it's still filling in, which is a good sign, right? There is always a little white patch, or it kind of looks like it's bleeding at times. I don't have a picture of her, but most of the time she's on her back scratching or rolling in the sand. So she likes to lay with her belly up quite a bit. And so here she is. And then here's actually a good example of the flipper tags. This is R00 or RB00, R-Boo, as a lot of us called her. She's actually, so the R8HE, we don't know where she was born or when she was born, but she was tagged on Kauai. So to make things more confusing about flipper tags, right? So we know R is for the red, right? So it's a red tag, we can see it. 8, if there's any time a monksil has a number after the R or starts off with a number, it means we didn't document where the monksil was born. Yeah. And then the HE is just, again, another letter combination. So there is a R4DE swimming around. There's the R5AY swimming around. Yeah. R2D2. So this young lady was born on Kauai. She was born on Kauai. Kind of interesting story. She kind of came to Maui and gave birth for the first time last year, but the pup was born stillborn. And then after a week in Maui, after the birth, she showed up here on our island. In October, November, if you guys were swimming at Mahakona, Mahu Kona. Did I say Mahu Kona? If you're at Mahu Kona, forgive me. If you were swimming around there, her and IO5 were kind of swimming around in the waters quite a bit, putting on a really big display. But these two photos are taken back in Kauai, almost like a month ago. So this is RA20, another Kauai-born girl. And this is the monksil that was kind of hanging out at Kua Bay.
How fast do they swim?
How fast do they swim?
Yeah, do you know how many miles they cover in an average day, or how far?
Yeah, that is a good question. We really don't know that. That's kind of some of there is strong emphasis to kind of get more regular monksils that we know what their kind of range is to get them tagged, so we can kind of collect that data. So RA20, she gave birth for the first time on our island, which was a big surprise to me, because again, typically they go back to their birthing or their natal beach, but she decided to give birth here, which was great. But the pup died 3 days later, which was sad. And what we found out after necropsy and actually doing some histology on the pup is that the pup actually had a herpes virus that was shed from the mother through the birthing canal. And so the initial necropsy report was that the pup drowned. But when we started doing histology and we found that the liver was becoming necrosis and some of the fat layer was becoming necrosis, that we were kind of going like, well, it's probably the virus starting to take hold, which made it weak and it, caused the drowning part. So we're still waiting on information to come back. They're still doing some more histology. So that was the girl that was at Kua Bay lately. And she's a Four Seasons girl as of the last couple days. So she has kind of an interesting, I talked about R5AY. R5, so A20's mom is R5AY. R5AY is kind of an interesting monk seal. She was, and kind of one of the reasons why we decided to have instead of just a rehabilitation site where we would bring in sick monk seals and just kind of rehabilitate them and then leave any surgeries to Oahu. It was because of R5AY. We decided to, if we're going to build pins the whole done, we might as well build a hospital aspect if we have to do some kind of surgeries, right? And it was because of this female. So R5AY, she's also known as Honey Girl. And she has a couple books, and you can go online and Amazon and find her books. But she had fishing line wrapped around her tongue, and when they finally got a hold of her, captured her, or when she got weak enough to capture her, her tongue was already necrotic, so basically they had to cut off the tongue. And they were really skeptic on like how she was going to do, and how much involvement was needed for monk seals, right? But she ended up surviving and actually producing RA20. So, and she's still a very successful mother. Another interesting fact about her, last week, she was actually, her general range is Kauai and Oahu, was kind of her range and where she hangs out. But last week she was spotted on Molokai, which is kind of interesting. So it kind of opens up, again, how much are they traveling and why, where are they traveling, why are they traveling, So I hate to say it, that RA20 is kind of my favorite monk seal, so there's 3 slides dedicated to her. But yeah, she's. So this is what I do, but I can't do it by myself. I rely on volunteers to help me out, educating our volunteers, asking those questions, informing, keeping people nice and safe, right, and kind of working in coexistence, right, where we can all share the beach still, right, and still have fun. And again, informing. So that's my job. So join our team, volunteer. Any questions? Yes.
Back in the 80s, there was some talk that there were so many male seals that it was actually bad for the seals because they were killing all the females. So it's a good idea to euthanize a lot of males.
Well,
What's the deal on that?
Translocate.
So they did translocate a bunch of. So again, in my world, there's never. We always So what I do today is what I've learned from past, right? And it's never a mistake, it's a learning opportunity, right? And so what they've learned from translocating males away from the northwest Hawaiian Islands and bringing them to the main Hawaiian Islands that they've never encountered, never grew up in, that they didn't do very well. And most of those males perished. And they kind of sprinkled them throughout the whole islands, right?
Weren't they juveniles though? They weren't adults.
They were more juveniles than
But
adults.
they were the rascal ones. Right?
Yeah.
So did that help? Did the females have a better chance?
No.
They didn't survive.
No, I mean not the males, but the females now have a better chance.
Technically, no. No, they didn't. They still didn't. Because, in nature, right, there's more males in pretty much all populations than there are females, right? So that's why we're always peacocking the winds, right, to pass on our genes. And Hawaiian monks do the same thing. It's just still, there wasn't right, because the idea was to bring monk seals to the main Hawaiian Islands and spread it out, right? But there was so many more males that they could bring to the northwest Hawaiian Islands. So by bringing those males here, and I don't want to get into the politics behind it, but it was kind of a bad thing because for 200 years, right? So but for 200 years there hasn't been any main Hawaiian Island monk seals for 200 years. So now you're introducing a species, right, to people who haven't had them, right? And so, which then, and introducing the species and not educating and informing why you're doing it and the reason, or and backing it up with monk seals don't eat twice their body weight in a day. They only eat 4%, right? And having an educational kind of smart way of introducing these species back in. So it kind of
It was not successful.
it wasn't successful all the way around. The males perished, and it kind of
It didn't help the females. Are there, do you know about how many males and females there are?
That's a good question. I will know more in like 3 weeks. So NOAA just took the campers out for the summer season. So NOAA calls the observers or the volunteers that go out to the Northwest. They spend 4 months out on an atoll, anywhere from 2 to 3 people will spend 4 months on an atoll with all the stuff that they need in a 5-gallon bucket, but several 5-gallon buckets. And all they have is a satellite phone, so they can get a call if there's a hurricane coming or something. And limited access to internet.
And that's your volunteer research team.
That's those.
They're the one doing the study right now.
They're doing so they're actually on Lausanne right now. They're dropping off these campers. So in a couple of weeks we'll be able to know a little bit more of
So how do you tell a male from a female?
Good question.
Females
It's,
have
it's on this card, Sylvester.
Oh, this is better.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, the bottom, light green.
Well, I'll show you. So, I thought I had a good picture. So
You do.
females are. So this is the female, and
Top one, on the right side? No? No? Yeah. Just past that.
what you gotta really see the.
That one?
Well, this is actually good for male because that's the male's penile sheath right here, and so the males, they'll have their belly button, and then I call it the zipper line. So their penile sheath is kind of that zipper line that goes straight, just like 3 to 4 inches below its belly button, and so that's what a male will look like. And then the females, they don't have that, and you could actually they have their umbi mark or their umbilical cord, and then they have 4 nipples on, or 2 nipples on each side of the umbilical cord. So it looks like kind of like a dice, the number 5 on the dice, kind of looks like that.
So the only way we tell them apart is when they flip over.
Yeah.
Is what we're saying.
Yeah. So the only way you can really tell a monk seal from male female is when it rolls over on its stomach.
So males don't have nipples.
No.
They don't even have.
That's the thing, yeah. Yeah, and females have like a nipple sheath, right? So, you can tell, so it's usually indented when you look at them when they're dried out. And then when they get pregnant, their nipples will protrude in their sheath, and their sheath is there for streamline. So when they're swimming, it doesn't create any drag.
So near the beginning of the talk, if I remember correctly, you said something about the seals who were here in the populated Hawaiian Islands were doing better than the ones in the Northwest Islands. They were surviving better, pupping better, something like that.
Yeah.
Are there theories as to why that is?
Well, one of them is that the Ulua fish is sported here, and so the monk seals are not competing against huge Uluas that are out in the Northwest. That's
But the Ulua fish was introduced. It's not a native species. No, it's not.
Let them answer the question, though.
Yeah, the Ulua fish was introduced. There wasn't Ulua here in ancient times. There are a lot of Ulua in the Indian Ocean, where Indian Ocean is. I mean, there's massive schools there.
Yeah.
But it was introduced here.
Who introduced it?
Man, I saw you.
Yeah, so the Ulua is sported here,
But
and
the schools they go after is your Honolulu and your Opelo schools. And the reason why most of the juvenile didn't make it is if they get a little Opelo fisherman that saw one hitting their koas, we have Opelo koas, and the Akuli schools that come here. And if a fisherman sees a seal that wipes out his meal ticket, it's not gonna survive. And that was one of the reasons. And they brought only juveniles, not adult ones.
yeah.
Because the sharks, the favorite food of the monk seals in Western Islands is the favorite food of the sharks. So here you have shark habitat area, and one of them is in High, just off of the breakwater, where the big, huge coral areas are where the sharks live. And that's why you don't see sharks in monk seals in Hawaiian, nor along their sandy beaches. Very rarely do you see them.
Well, yeah.
Very rare.
Yeah.
You do, but very rarely.
But and that's kind of the different, right, foraging patterns, right, is kind of more at night than during the daytime, right? And but they do eat a lot of, they're very generalistic, and I call them grazers because they're really, they're swimming along and poking along in the reef shoreline, right? So again, whatever pops up. So they've had, they've seen monk seals eat sea cucumbers, lobsters, crab, octopus, lots of reef fish, lots of eel. They play quite a bit with pufferfish. They play with turtles too. We haven't had any really documentation of any monk seals eating turtles, but they definitely do play with turtles and harass pufferfish. Yes?
Can you tell us a little bit how the hospital's been doing?
In what regards? We've had, like I said, we've had 19 patients. They've all been successfully recited. That's how we can kind of tell. They've all been pups. So the first 2 that came in the doors in 2014, are not, they were 2014, so they were both born 2013 from that cohort. So we have like another year or two before they, before they pop. So we're, you know.
Do you have a few of them here?
No, they're all released right now. They're all being released in the Northwesterns. Yeah. So in that regards, we're doing good. We're also we're going to talk about how we're doing. We're also a nonprofit organization. So we're relying on. So Cape Cayula is a satellite actually of the Marine Mammal Center based out of South Toledo, California. And so we're driven, or we're really funded by you folks. So we're, you know, donations is what drives us. So
Grants from NOAA?
grants, we do rely on grants, but we're not tied to any affiliation. So we're not funded by NOAA, but we will, when they have grants available that fit our what we're doing, then yeah, we definitely apply. We apply for all grants. We're not afraid to take money from anybody who has a grant that fits our needs. So for in that regards, financially, I think we'll do well in our current administration. What's going on? So if like NOAA, they lose some of the budget funding, we wouldn't be affected by that. The only thing that we would be affected by is if they stop taking cruises out to the Northwestern. But we've already started to think of how if we, Cape Cayula / the Marine Mammal Center, can afford to take monksels back to the Northwestern if need be. So if NOAA stopped going out to the Northwestern, we would just refocus more on I'm going to go here and
Under the MMPA, to help with the endangered species. And how closely, if at all, is your program tied into what they should be doing with that program? Are you at all involved, or?
well, Francis Golan, who is our director of science, is very actively involved in the write-up of the recovery plan for the Hawaiian monk seal. You know, in 2000, early 2000s, NOAA reached out to the Marine Mammal Center and said, like, hey, we could use your expertise on these monk seals out in the Northwesterns. Can you send us some of your vet techs or your vet interns, and can they go on a cruise with us to assess what we can do? And then the idea from that cruise birthed the idea of nursing pins. They called them nursing pins, and they would put small chain link fences into the water above the high tide line into the water, and they were kind of rehabbing monksels there. But again, it's a long ways, you know, to bring their food, right? And just to have what you need to really be successful. They did well. It was kind of like a 50-50 success rate for the monksels that they did in pins. But then it was Francis Golan who kind of said, let's stop messing around and let's really kind of save the species. Let's build a facility. And then that's when the whole idea of having Cape Cayula. I don't want to. That's a good question. I'm trying to answer it. I don't want to say we're writing the whole recovery plan, because we're not. It's interesting. Our Cape Cayula and the Marine Mammal Center's relationship with NOAA and all the other agencies that are trying to help with the recovery. It's a very collaborative and fluid relationship that we have. As in, I think we know when to apply our science and knowledge of veterinary science, and then kind of when to step back when it becomes administrative stuff. So we are a very big part of it, but I think you'll see Frances Golan, her name into it, her name, because she's our director of science, in some of the write-ups of how the recovery is going. Dr. Michelle Barbieri used to be 50% a Mammal Center vet and 50% know of that. And until recently, she actually does a lot of the recovery plan with some guidance from Francis. Now she was incorporated. NOAA had the budget to take her on full time or pay for her salary full time. So now she's currently with that. So that makes our even more fluid in our dynamics of how we work with each other.
So they have the first enforcement authority, but you have none.
Correct. Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, like so our volunteers, we are purely volunteers, and we're just educators.